This week on List Rate Rank.
Every time I describe what I've done as a project, it sounds like a lie. It just sounds like I'm lying about what it is.
On List Rate Rank, our hosts research various topics and each bring their own top 5 list to the show. Together they debate, discuss, and deliberate, and with the help of an expert, one definitive and indisputable top 5 list is created.
We're idiots and you're a bona fide genius, so do whatever you need to do.
This is List Rate Rank.
All right, welcome to List Rate Rank. I'm David Fedor.
I'm Felicia Gillespie.
And today we're going to Mars.
Yes, I can't wait to go to Mars. I don't think it's going to have the same rules as Earth. What do you think? Think it's going to be a democracy up there?
Oh, God, I hope not. I hope that whoever goes up there or when they do, they are planned. Like, I hope they plan.
Yeah, well, anybody who is extreme enough to want to go to Mars and do that and colonize it, they're not going to have a plan. They're just going to go along as they, that's how mad geniuses are, right?
Well, it could be like the Wild West, where winner takes all. But I think it should be I think scientists should be able to land there and plan everything, not leave anything to chance, and have contingency plans for everything. I don't think there'll be any kind of free love, free fun. Let's have democracy for a couple hundred years at least off
God,
Mars.
yes, please don't let the hippies take over on Mars. It's the last thing we need.
Yeah, man. Hey, we can't mess up this pile of sand. This pile of sand has been here since 2 billion BC.
I don't even know if you can smoke weed on Mars.
Well, that's my number 4.
Are you serious?
No. No, like, yeah, if when Mars is colonized, it's gonna be it's like everything's gonna be a military state for generations at least, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna have choices or options or opinions.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be, hey, let's measure your poop output today.
Did you see The Martian with Matt Damon?
I did.
I did too, and he gets left up there because I don't remember what happens. The spacecraft is all shut down, and it really reminded me of the time that my parents left me at that yard sale when I was 8 years old. So the whole movie was very traumatic for me.
What are some of the similarities? Did you have to grow your own food, or?
I was thinking that, yes, as I watched them pull away, I was I'm gonna have to start my own garden.
Fend for yourself. Hopefully,
yes.
Nobody else shows up to try to colonize your portion of the yard sale. Well, I have to say, a lot of my initial impressions of Mars are all heavily, related to movies and TV.
Okay.
How else? I mean, sure, science and textbooks and stuff in school, but really, it's all about my uncle's a Martian, Matt Damon's left on Mars, somebody's trying to kill Bugs Bunny from Mars or something.
Well, I want to hear your list. Why don't you go first today?
Okay. All right. So here's our top 5. Here's my top 5.
Yes.
For things to do at Mars.
Lay it on me.
All right. Number 5, investigate the UFO crash site at Medusa Fossa. Number 4, grow potatoes in your own shit. Number 3, climb Olympus Mons. Number 2, visit Valles Marineris. And number 1, hang out with the Curiosity rover. So in my opinion, by the time I get to Mars, the Curiosity rover would have been struck by lightning and become sentient and become alive like Johnny Five from Short Circuit. So me and him would pal around Mars doing all kinds of crazy, quirky, fun stuff to the soundtrack of DeBarge.
Yeah. That's a pretty good list. I have some similar things. My number 5 is visit Valles Marineris. You almost had it. You just had to throw some Italian sauce in there in that pronunciation. Number 4, visit Olympus Mons. Boom.
Uh-huh.
Number 3, go dust boarding. Yeah, we'll get into it. Number 2, Invent a new capital punishment system. Yes, cannot wait.
So definitely not a democracy then. Oh wait, I guess there is capital punishment in democracies.
Yeah, and number 1, form a Mars Olympics.
Nice. Tell me about the Mars Olympics.
Well, so the gravity up there is 62% lower than it is here on Earth, which really just busts it open for a lot of adventure and excitement. And we have to build like a cage or a dome to keep people from flying off into space. I'm going to have to ask the expert if that's even possible, if people can fly off into space if they jump too high. But I mean, come on. Everyone is going to look 1,000% more athletic on Mars.
It would be like watching a person watching basketball and then all of a sudden watching slam ball, where they're all bouncing off of trampolines and stuff. And it's like, wow, basketball is lame compared to slam ball. So like the regular Olympics will be lame compared to the Martian Olympics.
Yeah, Olympics on Mars is like Tommy Maddox's life, right? You remember Tommy Maddox,
the
former quarterback
for the
Pittsburgh Steelers? Started out as an insurance salesman, ended up playing for the XFL, and then got drafted into the NFL. What? That's totally from Earth to Mars.
He won the XFL championship. He was like the best guy in the XFL too. So that's why.
I had his jersey. So yeah. I'm the only person. They sold one jersey, and it was to me.
I was a fan of Tommy Maddox, and then of course one tiny little injury puts him out for a week, and then Big Ben takes over, and 17 years later, here we are with the Steelers still kicking ass, and Tommy Maddox is probably selling insurance again.
Yeah, maybe Tommy Maddox can get back into the NFL up on Mars. That would be great.
Tommy Maddox leads the MFL, the Martian Football League.
Yes.
Oh man, what? That's my number 1. That's automatically going in there. That's pretty awesome.
We have to. It's a must do.
Oh, definitely must do. And like I would feel like, oh, maybe I got a shot at the Olympics. Like everyday heroes, everyday people could be heroes up there.
I would agree with you about that.
Okay, so we need to pare this list down to 5 that we're going to take our expert.
Yeah.
And then, of course, our number 1s are going to go onto our joint top 5. So being best pals with the sentient Curiosity rover will be on there, and creating a Mars Olympics will be on there as well. And then, of course, if we have any duplicates on each other's lists, those go to there as well. So visit the Vallis Marinar, the Valley of
Marinaris.
Spaghetti. The Valley of Spaghetti. Vallis Marineris will be on there, and visiting Olympus Mons will be on there. People who are listening need to know that the Olympus Mons is the highest peak in the entire solar system.
Yes.
It is a volcano the size of Arizona, and it's 16 miles high.
Yes.
So that's 3 times higher than Earth's highest peak, which is Mount Everest.
Yes.
Similarly, Vallis Marineris is the largest gorge in the solar system. So it is 4 times the size of the Grand Canyon. So, for my list, I couldn't put the highest peak on there without putting the largest valley or the largest gorge at all. So, the Vallis Marineris is 1,850 miles long, 4 times greater, 4 times larger than the Grand Canyon.
Oh, really? I read something that said it was 2,500 miles long.
Ooh, maybe it grew.
It grew. More asteroids hit it, and it, yeah.
But regardless, I have, those are in the entire solar system, the tallest and the largest. So you got to check that out, especially with the, lack of other things to do there. Go check those things out. To be fair, on Earth, I have not visited the Grand Canyon, and I have not climbed Mount Everest, but we have TV and the internet here, so.
Yeah, and 4K. Why would you?
Right. Yeah, I've seen pictures. Cool. If I'm out that way, maybe I'll stop by.
I agree with you. Those are definitely they've got to be high up there on the Mars TripAdvisor. Being someone who's into nature myself and taking photographs of nature, that's the first thing I would do. I mean, I would dust board. I would dust board my way there, you know.
So what is dust boarding?
Dust boarding, it's like snowboarding, but on dust. so it's covered in dust up there. And there's a place in Cincinnati called Wake Nation where you can go wakeboarding via they use a cable pulley system. You just grab onto those to the handle, and then it pulls you across a lake. And there are ramps and everything. So you just substitute, dust boarding for that, and you're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, Mars is a rocky, dust-filled terrain. There's not
We'll
much
get
else
some
going
guys out there to rake. We'll get the rocks out of the way.
Well, what I'm saying is it would be fun, right?
Hell yes, it would be fun, especially if you put some ramps in there and just get some bulldozers up there, build some mounds.
As long as you don't bulldoze the Medusa Fossa. So that is the place of the UFO crash site.
Yes, please tell me more.
So long time ago, there's been pictures of this place. It's a Martian landscape, and a lot of the rocks and a lot of all the stuff kind of looks similar because it's all, like you said, dust-filled, rocky, volcanic, blah, blah, blah. There's this one spot at the Medusa Fossa, which, and I hope I'm saying that right. Actually, I don't care if I am or not. That's what I'm calling it, the Medusa Fossa. It looks like a flying saucer, looks like a saucer-shaped spaceship in the middle of all this other rocky places. So it's a nice, smooth mound of stuff, and people see it, and they're like, this doesn't belong there, which of course means, oh, this has to be a crashed UFO into the side of Mars, so into the surface of Mars. So that makes the only amount of sense.
So it's an actual object in the ground?
Well, since 2018, and we have Curiosity rovers, and people went up there and checked it out. Scientists claim that, quote, the formation may have formed from immensely huge volcanic eruptions taking place hundreds of times over 500 million years. So science is telling me that it's just volcanic rock that happens to be completely different than all of its other surroundings. But to me, in my heart, I think it's a UFO.
Right, because we don't believe in science here on List Rate Rank.
No. It's more about what makes sense.
I did see that in my research. I was going to throw it on my list, but I was like, nah, that probably didn't happen. But it totally could be. Totally could be a UFO.
And here's the deal. Even if it's not a UFO, you're still investigating it. So it's something to do.
Yeah.
Like, you still go and, take a little brush and peck at the ground and take some samples and do stuff. So if it's not a UFO, then hey, it's cool ass volcanic rock that for some reason is smooth.
Yeah, and you don't need a degree. It's not archaeology or paleontology, right? It's like
there's no colleges up there. You're like, you're up there and you say, hey, I'm the archaeologist of Mars. People gotta let you be.
They'll just call Elon Musk and be like, hey, does this guy check out? And Elon Musk will be like, no, but just let him do it. I like the passion.
Well, that leads me to the next thing, which is my number 4 is grow your own potatoes.
Please tell me more about this.
So Matt Damon in The Martian, if you remember the movie, one of the only things I remember from the movie is that he grows potatoes in his own shit. That's what he has to live on. That's what he has to sustain himself with. So I guess instead of growing your own potatoes and shit, you can become like the first restaurant on Mars. All you have to do is make anything else besides shit potatoes. As long as it's not potatoes made and grown out of your own feces, then you're pretty much going to be the best restaurant. It doesn't have to be gourmet. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be not shit potatoes.
I think the first restaurant on Mars would serve the potato. I think that it would, I think that it would be That would be the first restaurant. People would eat it because it's the only option. And
Like-
then
like-
when someone comes up there and they have, they're a real chef and they start doing it, people are like, fuck this potato.
Well, when you go to Mars, bring one boy chicken and one girl chicken, and just make a lot of chickens, and then all of a sudden, pow! Now you're the most popular guy on Mars because you're the chicken guy.
Your version of Mars is like so hillbilly. It's like just regular ass guys digging up UFOs and investigating them, and just got a guy who brought 2 chickens and started a restaurant. Yeah, this is
Right?
a lot of untapped potential for this planet.
Well, you got the gold prospector out there with his overalls, and he's digging to try to find whatever the Martian equivalent of gold is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got the Noah's Ark guy. You got Moses Moses was not the Noah's Ark. Noah was the Noah's Ark guy.
Noah, the guy in flip flops and khaki shorts, just out there with a metal detector trying to find UFO parts. Mars is going to be nothing like that. It's only going to be for the 1% that live here that want to get the fuck out.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be, all gorgeous people who look like Matt Damon, who are all ripped and all the muscles. They don't need special Martian Olympics because they can do all that shit here on Earth. I wouldn't even be able to make the journey. How long is the journey to Mars? Like years, right?
No, I don't think it's years. It's like 24 hours, something around 24 hours or 36 hours from here to the moon. And the moon is like a halfway point. So, yeah, not years.
Oh, so you could like weekend at Mars.
Yes, I may be totally incorrect. We'll have to ask the expert, but I'm pretty sure it's not even 1 year.
Oh, yeah. Well, then you couldn't really weekend at Mars, but you could definitely temporarily go to Mars. You don't have to like commit to a life.
Yeah.
You don't board a spaceship and then say, okay, I'm going to have kids on this spaceship, and then those kids are going to have kids on this spaceship, and they're going to be the ones who lives on Mars because we're going to die in transport.
Right. So it's more than a
age.
weekend. It's less than a, generational gap. It's a great place to visit during a pandemic while the world is locked down and you have nothing else to do. You just go up to Mars.
Would you go to Mars?
No, absolutely not. I love Earth. Yeah, Earth is far superior. I don't want to walk around wearing a helmet all the time. I mean, I already do that here. Why do I need to go do that on Mars?
Can you imagine the people who refuse to wear helmets on Mars because they think it's a hoax?
You think what is a hoax?
Like, oh, I don't need to wear a helmet on Mars.
Oh, right.
It infringes on my rights. Fuck you. I'm gonna breathe this Martian air.
Right, and this is why my invent a new capital punishment system, this is where this comes in, because it's negative 55 degrees on Mars, but the atmospheric pressure is so low that your blood actually will boil. So I think that should be one of the forms of capital punishment. If you fucking up on Mars, we just send you out there with no suit, no helmet, nothing, and we fizz you to death.
And it seems like this is an entertainment aspect as well. Like you see, or at least for you seem to take a little bit of pleasure in this sort of capital punishment.
It's like feeding people to the lions. We need to bring some of that back. What's that called? Where they quarter, whatever,
drawn and quartered.
Yes.
Wow. So my version of Mars is hillbilly. Your version of Mars is let's hunt people. Let's have the 1%, all the rich people up there, and we could have human sport, and we could have Mars Olympics, and whoever doesn't medal, whoever doesn't place on the podium gets suffocated to death in the lack of atmosphere.
That's right, because Mars is a totally bare naked, untapped place, just like Earth was when cavemen were walking around. It's going to be very animalistic, very primal up there. Well, I don't know. Which one are you going to fight for if you were going to fight to have one of yours in that last coveted spot on our list?
Well, I am a little bit afraid of you at this moment, so I will let you have capital punishment.
You're not afraid of me. You know how cool it is.
Yeah.
You agree with me. You agree with me.
I also agree with you, and I want to see what our expert says about that topic. So
I'm going to ask him to get as gruesome as possible.
Well, not only, like, we don't have to talk about ways to kill people. Like, we could talk about how to set up a government or how to set up a judicial system.
Who cares about that? No, we just throw them out suitless.
All right, so our top 5 list is set because we both had because we both had Olympus Mons and Valley Marinara. They make it on the list, and since I had them ranked higher than your list, I get the points.
Damn.
So I get that, and my Curiosity rover. You have the Mars Olympics and Capital Punishment on the list. So that's our top 5. Now, before we go into our segment with the expert, I do have an honorable mention.
Okay.
I was going to include this on my top 5, but switched it out because I was talking with my neighbor this morning. My honorable mention is masturbate.
That's a given. You don't even need. We're masturbating on the spaceship on the way there. You know.
Yeah, totally. So, but thinking of things to do on Mars, there's not that much yet. So until all that gets colonized and it's a ton of fun, I'm going to spend a lot of time masturbating. Now, the reason I had to pull this off my list, and that was not supposed to be a pull one off joke. Yes, it is. I was talking to my neighbor this morning, right? She's this sweet lady. Her and her husband are the nicest neighbors anyone could ever ask for. She was in her yard doing some gardening, and my son and I were out there, so we're sitting there talking, and she's all asking me questions, and she's like, "Oh, what are you recording for your show today?" I'm like, "Things to do on Mars." And she's like, "Oh, what's on your list?" And the only thing I could think of was masturbate. I'm like, "No, what? I can't say that." And then she's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, so I knew I had to pull that off the list because, like, I couldn't think of Olympus Mons, I couldn't think of Valley Marinara, I couldn't think of the Curiosity rover. I was just like, what would you do? Anything but masturbate.
And you don't want to have to go into detail about how the gravity is 62% less up there either. You know, when you tell her masturbate, and she's like, "Why would you do that?" And you're like, "Well, the gravity." Yeah.
I bet you that would feel different. Accidentally, like, send myself into orbit.
Yeah, and then when
Dave Fedor. Oh, he was a good guy. Died doing what he loved. Oh, what's that? Podcasting?
Oh my God.
No. Yanking it so hard.
You come really hard.
Doesn't everybody?
That is oh my God.
But no, think of all the different euphemisms for masturbation on Mars. It wouldn't be like, you would say things like blasting off. I'm gonna go blast one off over in the I'm gonna go climb Olympus Mons and blast a couple off.
Oh my God, I'm so immature. This is the hardest thing I'm laughing at in this episode.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing you're laughing at.
That should be number 1 on our list. Actually,
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm gonna climb on Olympus Mons once at best. 16 miles high, the size of Arizona. Yeah, I'm only gonna do that one time. I'm gonna jerk off 20 times just climbing that thing.
Oh my God, the expert will not appreciate any of this.
We took the most scientific, the most astronomical, the most, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're in a pandemic. What can people expect?
I mean, literally, this guy is a doctor. He has a PhD in Martian science. And we're going to be like, "Hey, so where would you jerk off?"
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, we have to ask him now.
We do. And he's going to be like, well, I would just have sex with the Curiosity rover.
All right. Well, as much as I'd like to sit here and
Yeah.
make more, we're going to be joined by our expert soon, and I got to go blast off just to get a clear head so that we could continue. So we're going to be joined after the break with our Martian expert and rank these top 5. So stick around.
Hey everybody, this is Jeff, the host of Stuff I Never Knew Trivia Game Show podcast. Each week, 3 players from around the world call in and battle it out over 3 rounds of trivia. Each week there's a new show. You'll meet new people from around the world. We have over 80 episodes. We're in season 4. That's the Stuff I Never Knew Trivia Game Show podcast, available everywhere you listen to podcasts. That's stuffineverknew.com, stuffineverknew.com, that's stuffineverknew.com.
All right, welcome back to the show. Ricci Bahia studied a master's in geology with Planetary Science at the University of Manchester and went on to get a PhD there titled The Evolution of Surface Topography and Environment of Mars from Channel Networks. He is currently working as a researcher for Rolls Royce, examining the characteristics of dust in the atmosphere and how they damage jet engines, but will be returning to Martian research in February when he will be starting a research fellowship working for the European Space Agency. And today he is our expert on things to do on Mars. Ricci, welcome to List Rate Rank.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for being had, and thanks for adopting your schedule, because you're over in Manchester, is that right? Or
yes, Manchester, UK. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this nice little time difference. So thank you for accommodating us. You're going to work at the European Space Agency. Is that like NASA here in the States?
Yes, it's the equivalent of your NASA. Yeah.
That's incredible. Tell me a little bit about what you do and how you got into loving Mars.
I initially was going to do mechanical engineering. So I'm from an Indian family, and not to stereotype, mine do fit into the stereotype of they expect you to do something that has an obvious application. So you're either a doctor. Mechanical engineering makes sense because you're an engineer and we can understand that.
Yeah.
I remember my granddad wanted me to be a TV engineer because his TV was always breaking. So, but then, I had a fascination with dinosaurs initially and space. And I was like, how can I intertwine those two things? Well, geology, planetary science allows me to do both things.
Oh, cool.
And then I just fell in love with the Martian research side of things. So, yeah.
Ricci, we have so much in common, except I did not pursue any of those things and get degrees in them. So,
well, there's always time.
Oh, you're so positive.
Well,
and, sorry, go for it. Yeah.
Well, what is it specifically that about Mars that intrigued you? Is it the?
Well, this is going to get into the dark side of research in terms of being realistic about it. I initially did, this sounds like, every time I describe what I've done as a project, it sounds like a lie. It just sounds like I'm lying about what it is. But for my master's project, I actually studied debris avalanches on the moon. So I looked at satellite images of the moon and analyzed where there were avalanches. So you have these large craters, and there's the moon is actually subjected to moonquakes. We're not 100% sure why, but it has, like earthquakes, it has moonquakes. And what would happen is the side of the crater walls would collapse and you get these big avalanches of rock. And I measured those from satellite images and looked at the characteristics.
You're a liar.
Liar.
No, liar. Yeah, continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry to cut you off.
So I looked at those, and then when it came to looking at a PhD, there was very little money in the UK's like funding agencies for lunar work. They wanted Martian stuff doing because Curiosity rover was big at the time, and the Opportunity rover was as well. So a lot of the money was in Martian research. So I went into, I saw there was a project to do with looking at where river valleys on Mars were. And I have the skill sets for looking at satellite images. So I thought I can just apply those skills to a different satellite. So that got me into Martian research. And since I've fallen in love with it, really.
Ricky, if you ever got the opportunity to go to the moon or go to Mars, would you, or do you feel safer studying from Earth?
I would love to. If I went to the Mars, that's it. It's a one-way trip. That's you're done. You're donezo.
Is
The
that
moon,
How
on
long?
the other hand,
Yeah.
I'm too tall, so I can't. I'm actually too tall to be an astronaut. So
Wait, what's the height requirement or restriction?
the limit, I believe, is I don't want to be quoted on this thing. I think it's 6'1",
Oh shit, I can't go
and I'm
either.
actually 9'4", so just above it.
Oh, that's a translation with UK and US, right? Because that's
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
When you say it's a
to
one-
US, I'm 16 meters tall.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
When you
Just for
say it's a
translation.
when you say it's a one-way trip to Mars, David and I were talking about this earlier. How long does it take to get there?
So it takes 9 months to get to Mars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why would it be a one-way trip for you then? You could come back,
So
right?
yeah, so the major reason at the moment is because we don't have preventative methods for radiation. So
Oh.
for instance, you can spend a long time in the International Space Station. The longest I think people have spent there is around a year, so like a long time. So surpassing the amount of time that people would need to be in a spacecraft to get to Mars. But when you're in the International Space Station, you're constantly in Earth's magnetic field, so you're not susceptible to the sun's rays. Whereas as soon as you get outside of the Earth magnetic field, which a large proportion of your trip to Mars would be, you're constantly just getting bombarded by rays from the sun. So you most definitely would get cancer if you were on the way to Mars. And then Mars doesn't have a magnetic field, so you're susceptible to them as soon as you set foot on there as well. So yeah, at the moment we just don't really have a technique for preventing that as a major one.
Wow, that's fascinating. So anyone who goes to Mars is going to get cancer?
Well, the plan, I say plan, the theoretical infrastructure you would need is, you might be fine in the spacecraft. You might be able to somehow put big lead walls in there, which you wouldn't get poisoned from, but you would prevent yourself from getting radiation poison. Again, the issue is how expensive it would be for you to put a load of lead into your ship and not weigh it down so much it costs a ridiculous amount of fuel for you to move.
Okay.
But say hypothetically that you can do that, it's fine. You can put enough lead in your spacecraft so you can get to Mars. Once you're on Mars, how are you going to prevent yourself from getting hit by the radiation when you're on the surface? It's going to be difficult again. So what you really need to do, and this brings me back to the hypothetical way of doing it, is you'd either want to send robots there to build buildings for you before you get there. So once you get there, you can get straight out of the spacecraft, straight into a building which is radiation proof. Or alternative is Mars is covered in these things called lava tubes. So they are basically big caverns where you've had a load of lava that's come out of a volcanic rupture somewhere or a fissure. And as it's flowing, the inside is hotter than the outside. So imagine you've got this pool of lava, the inside is hotter, so the outside cools first, and the inside keeps moving. So you're left with this big tunnel of lava, essentially. So you could go fly next to one of those and run straight inside, and you'd be radiation proof.
We already need to have you back. I have so many questions about everything you're saying. This is fascinating to me. I do want to ask you that, they say on Mars the gravity is 62% lower. So yes. This might be a really dumb question, like it's similar to Earth. But if you were on Mars, let's say you jumped on that wouldn't work. Let's say you're like jumping or something flings. Is there a risk of you just being flung out into space and not coming back?
Not you. I mean, okay. So it's only, so you have to think about it's about a third of Earth. So if you jump, you'll jump about 3 times higher. So yeah, you're not going to go into space, but you will go a lot higher than you would here.
And
gotcha.
your legs will shatter when you land.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of what we're talking about seems like it's restricting some of the things that we wanted to do. in our top 5 list. So
Let's just say hypothetically you can do
hypothetically, our
yeah.
top 5 list, we have already figured out how not to die instantly from cancer for radiation. And let's assume that there's already, you know, some sort of way to live up there.
Mhm.
So here's our top 5 list. Felicia, when you're ready, go ahead.
All right, we need you to rate these in order from 5 to 1. Here are your options. Top 5 things to do on Mars. Form an Olympic team. Hang out with the Curiosity rover. Visit the Valles Marineris. Visit Olympus Mons. And invent a new capital punishment system.
I just want to get a bit more information from you guys about some of these things. Okay, so let's say David, let's play out your fantasy of hanging out with the Curiosity rover. Where do you see that going?
I figure it would be a very lonely time up on Mars, because the time when I visit, there's still not yet much to do, or still not yet a lot of things going on. So it's literally me and my buddy, who happens to be a robot. And
okay, so his Curiosity, in my mind, this is how it's played out. Curiosity been hit by this lightning, and he obviously has you on speed dial, and he has a phone that works. So he hits you up. He goes, "Hey, David, it's me, Curiosity, your boy. Come visit me on Mars." So you're obviously, yeah, cool, I'm coming.
Yeah.
There.
And I'm assuming there's a bad guy up there as well who wants to turn the Curiosity robot into a weapon for the Martian police force, and you know, that whole B plot is going on too.
Until you said that part, I was on your side. The reason is because, okay, so there's this other subplot of this other guy who's up there. So technically you've invaded on his turf. He was already there, and now David's turning up, trying to turn the Curiosity rover against this other guy. You know, just that's a down mark for you, Dave. I'm sorry. That's a
damn it.
That's a down mark for that one. Okay, cool. Okay, I'm happy with that answer at least. Just a bit more information on some of the other ones. So Olympus Mons, right? Obviously, as you guys know, tallest mountain or volcano, either one, in the solar system. Is it 23 kilometers tall?
What does that mean, Ricky? I don't know kilometers.
18
I
miles.
have this information.
Okay,
it
please.
is, well, I have it in feet. It's 89,000 feet high.
And I have 16 miles high on my list.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. So
three times higher than Earth's highest, which is Mount Everest.
Okay, so I'm going to put a question to you guys. Why do you think Olympus Mons is 3 times taller than the highest mountain on Earth?
I think because it's also 3 times wider.
Well, let's go back to what we've compared about Earth and Mars so far. So,
are you saying
gravity?
Spoon feed?
The gravity situation?
Gravity, yeah. So the gravity is 1/3 on Mars of that is on Earth. So things can grow 3 times as tall before they're restricted by gravity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So since it's 3 times higher than Mount Everest, that's because of that. So you're saying it's going to be an unspectacular trip and a waste of time?
No, it'd be an incredible trip. So I think the cliffs around it are 6 kilometers drop. So again, I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but just imagine 4 of me stood on top of myself. That's how far tall the cliffs are around the outside of it.
Well, I didn't say it would be an easy trek.
Yeah.
When we say visit, we mean from a distance, taking selfies. You know.
Oh right, okay. So you don't mean standing on top of it.
Oh, I would have to climb it. But of course, my robotic Curiosity rover would help me do that.
But this could purely tie into your new capital punishment. You push someone over the edge of Olympus Mons.
That is one of them. There you go.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, so I'm happy with those ones. So thus far, okay, I'm going to need to know more about the Olympics, though.
That has to do with the gravity situation. You know, I feel like you said, you can jump 3 times higher. Maybe you can. I don't know. Can you run faster? I don't know. But inventing new forms of athletic feat.
like I can see the shot put, the javelin, all of those things have great merit on Mars because of the distance you'd be able to throw them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could have Susan Boyle throw a shot put further than the current world world record on Earth. So yeah, I can definitely see the merit in that. So this is my order then. Given everything you guys have said, I'm gonna go for Curiosity rover is definitely number 1, and then I'd say Olympus Mons is number 2, Billionaires and Eris is number 3, and then unfortunately number 4 is Olympics, and number 5 is Capital Punishment.
Sorry, Felicia.
I know.
crushed you.
I know. Clearly, I lose. My suggestions were all, those of a third grader, and David swept this one.
So
Yeah,
can I ask whose is whose then? I see.
Sure, yeah. Mine was the Curiosity rover, obviously. The Olympus Mons. Now, both of us have the Olympus Mons and the Valley of Spaghetti. But I had them ranked higher on my list, so I got the points for that. So I won 12-3.
I see. Right.
Curb stomped me.
I feel bad now.
No, don't feel bad.
But tell you what, let's just cut that all out and let's start again. All right.
Well, how about you could make up for it by telling us your list of the top 5 things to do.
I can't wait to hear this guy's list.
Well, the unfortunate thing is it's quite boring because it's almost exactly the same for some of them. So my top number 1 was visit Olympus Mons. That was my top 1. Then number 2 was visit Cassis Valley. So there's a giant outflow channel. So shall I explain what these things are as I go along?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so an outflow channel are channels on Mars that formed after Mars had lost its atmosphere and everything. And the reason they formed is because underneath the surface of Mars is a thing called the cryosphere, which is a layer of ice, essentially. And it's unknown how thick this layer of ice is, but it can be on the orders of hundreds of meters thick, possibly kilometers thick. And in areas of Mars, it's been caused to melt, maybe because of impacts or because of volcanic activity. And when they melt, they have massive flood events. And when I say they, I mean as in millions to billions of years ago. So the most recent one was about 2 million years ago that we can age. But Cassis Vallis formed about 3.6 billion years ago. And it's so long, if it was on Earth, it would stretch from one side of Australia to the other side of Australia.
Wow.
So yeah, it's huge, about 3,500, and I know you don't know kilometers, 3,500 kilometers across. So yeah, that would be my second one. My third one would be to go to probably Oxyoplanum. So the place we're planning to send the ESA 2020, which is now the ESA 2022, or Rosalind Franklin rover, that's going to be sent to Mars to look for signs of life.
And when you say we, you actually mean we as in you and your team of people. You're working on
personally.
Yeah,
I'm
like it's not we as in humans.
Into the sky and hoping it reaches Mars.
Congratulations.
No.
And thank you.
So I don't want to overdo my part in the team. My role in the team is essentially I'm what you would call a remote sensing analyst. So as I said, I look at satellite imagery. So my role thus far has been involved in mapping out the area that the robot will be going to in terms of its potential geology. So what type of rocks are there? And the reason that's important is because certain rocks are linked to different environmental events that have occurred. So if you see a volcanic rock, you're probably not going to have life in it because it will have been too hot or it won't have water in it. Whereas if you see a clay, it's interacted with water in some point in time because clay is formed from water activity. So, we've had to map out the area to figure out where the robot will want to go to look for signs of life when it lands there. And my other role is essentially mapping out potential dangerous things that are in the area. So areas you don't want the rover to be driving on because it might get stuck and then you've wasted, your whole whole trip because there's nothing you can do once the rover gets started.
So you have a lot of pressure on your performance during this.
I'm not the only one doing it. There's a good team of us doing it. So, and I'm low down on the hierarchy of people who get in trouble.
Well,
So,
I mean,
okay.
for the purposes of this podcast, make yourself sound a little bit better.
Okay, I am
only
top
being a
dog.
doctor. Yeah, there you go.
I'm the only one involved in it. Actually, I made the rover, and I am sending it personally. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. So is that my number 4?
That's your 3.
Okay, 3. So I said Olympus Mons, Cassis Vallis. Yep, Oxyplanum. Number 4 is Valles Marineris, largest rift valley in the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 5 is Argyre Basin, which is a giant impact basin on the southern hemisphere of Mars.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have to tap out here. I'm sorry I have to go early, but I really, really loved speaking with you, asking you questions. I really am fascinated about this subject. So thank you for being on. I hope we have you on again because I feel like I could talk about something like this for many episodes. So, but yes, nice to meet you, and thank you.
See you later.
Awesome. See you, Felicia.
Bye, David.
Well, see, now when I bring up the subject of masturbation without Felicia present, it's just going to get awkward and weird with me and Ricky.
We'll
so
see.
That was one of the jokes. Was what else are you gonna do up there?
Astronauts must, though. They must.
Right? They have to. What else?
They have so much time. They must.
And it was like I was looking at ways to, interact both of my options, like climb the Olympus Mons and blast one off.
I mean, so something I didn't say is my top 5. Every single scenario ends with blasting one off. So go to Olympus Mons, blast one off. Cassis Vallis, blast one off. It goes without saying. Really, I should have.
Yeah, because you don't see that part in the movies. They don't show. Well, it depends on the movies you're watching, I guess. But
dude, imagine that Curiosity rover sends the latest images back to NASA, and in the background is just you. Yeah, just hunched over like some kind of ghoul, just smashing one out.
Yeah. So I the other things that we had on our list, growing potatoes in your own shit.
Yeah. I don't know if you can do that, by the way.
That seemed like one of the major plot points, or the whole purpose of the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. So we theorized that having any other source of nutrition on Mars, then you would be considered the world's, and by the world I mean the world of Mars, the world's best chef, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
just apparently you'd be
right. As long as it's not shit potatoes, you're good.
I'm really surprised Matt Damon. He missed a real move for his career there. He could have released a cookbook after that film. Obviously it'd all be potato-based dishes, and the first instruction would be thoroughly clean your potato.
So then, some of the other things we wanted to figure out was from you. What are some other ways for capital punishment? What are other ways besides, just suffocating? You mentioned shoving somebody off of the highest point in the solar system. What are some other ways that people could die on Mars?
God, there's a lot. So you must know there's things called dust devils on Mars.
Tell me about a dust devil.
Yeah, so I had a really cool conversation recently with a academic called Matt Baum. I'm sure he won't mind me saying his name. And he used to study dust devils on Earth. So a dust devil is a tornado that is full of dust. So he studied them on Earth, and then he applied them to Mars and looking at all these dust devils you get on Mars. And the reason they're interesting for Mars, well, there's numerous reasons, but in terms of rover missions, is there's potential that they might damage your rover if you've got a load of dust spinning around. But that's not the only reason. The reason they form is because of like electrostatic events that occur. So some kind of electrical surges that occur. And it means that there is a worry that if your rover's close to one, it might short circuit the rover. So Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So yeah, and make it be sentient and become
Yeah, there
your
you
best
go.
friend.
Yeah. So if all those things happened, and let's say instead of it becoming your best friend, it became a Terminator, the new generations of Terminator.
Oh,
that could be your form of capital punishment.
that would be interesting.
Mm.
So a dust devil is not only a dust hurricane, but could be the catalyst and the thing that sends everything else into motion. That's my inciting instance. That is my the point in the movie. So yeah, we're gonna write a movie. The three of us will.
But yeah, I was gonna say, if you write this movie and I see it, I want my share.
Oh yeah, you're in.
It's bound to be a blockbuster.
I
think this is going to be the film to restart the cinema industry again.
It's not going to be no John Carter of Mars. This is gonna be good. Before we go, I know you have, like you said, your work with the European Space Agency and everything else. You also have your own podcast. Go ahead and tell us about how people could find out more about what you do, Mars related and recreationally. Yes,
so I actually don't want to brag, but I'm a member of 2 podcasts. I know. You said not to show off too much on the podcast.
I mean, hey, you already flaunted your doctorate in Martian studies, and you work for, the European Space Agency. But tell me about your conquering
my 2 mildly successful podcasts. That's why I'm showing off. So I'm a member. If people want to know more about research stuff, I'm a member of a thing called the Cosmic Cast. We're on all platforms: YouTube, Spotify, etc. And we are a podcast where we communicate with anyone who does Earth or planetary sciences. So we've had people who look at meteorites, people who look at Mars, Titan, Venus. I'm just naming planets now. But,
you're showing off. You're showing off that doctorate level knowledge there.
Exactly. So that's one, and it's more of a serious format. But it's don't get me wrong. It's no Question Time or BBC One type of thing. I don't know if those relate over in your country. But,
yeah, I'll put it like substitute whatever the equivalent is. Yeah, it's no NPR or
it's a casual conversation with academics, learning about what their research is about and how they got to their positions. And I also do I guess you'd deem it as a comedy podcast called Live from 45. Being Human is the series, and we're on all platforms as well.
Nice.
And we're infrequent with our uploads just due to our busy schedules. But if you want to have a time where you sit down and you just think, you know what, my life is at least better than these 2 people's lives, you should clock into that for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your expertise and your time for this Martian episode of List Rate Rank. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on.
Awesome.
Please rate and subscribe to List Rate Rank on Apple, Google, Spotify, or YouTube, and find our bonus content on listraterank.com. Follow @ListRateRank on Twitter and Instagram, like List Rate Rank on Facebook, and join our Facebook group to get in on the fun. Thank you for listening to List Rate Rank.
And many more.
The Curiosity rover will adopt a personality, become a quirky, actual living robot, and me and him would go on adventures.
Like WALL-E.
Like WALL-E, or specifically Short Circuit, the movie I've been referencing. Are you not familiar with the 1980s classic Short Circuit?
I feel like WALL-E has more emotion, though, right?
What?
Than Johnny Five?
Johnny Five was all emotion. And he didn't know how to control it. He fell in love with a human girl and danced to the Bee Gees.
So are you telling me that WALL-E is probably based on Johnny Five? Because that sounds very similar.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are no original ideas in Hollywood.